All right, so after doing some research on the two different lines, I've come to the easiest conclusion that it would be better to keep this one intact since it was in good working condition prior to me uninstalling it, and I just unplugged everything and didn't break anything. So what I'm going to do, I think is going to be the quickest, is I'm going to pull the CAD system off of this one, off this Jeep, and pull the one off my 92, since this harness is for the 92. So I'm going to put that CAD in here, plug it in, and then all I need to do is hook up a vacuum source, which should be that plug there. And then to make a dash light work, since there's no dash light in this Jeep apparently, I'll be able to use the factory plug at the CAD. I will replace the plug here, and I have bought a switch, or a light, I shouldn't say a switch, a light that will go in the hole that was in the dash. I'll make a plate that says 4-wheel drive and add power, so when you shift into 4-wheel drive, the vacuum will work and the light will come on and problem solved. I think that's going to be the easiest. So I ordered the little light. It's like $10 on Amazon. So today I'll be working on putting the harness back into a non-brittle wire loom, and then swapping the two CADs. And I'm going to modify this one before I put it in the Jeep, because I'm locking out my system so that it's always in the front wheels are always locked together. Because eventually I'm going to do the chromoly single axle anyway, so for me that's a good thing to do temporarily. So that's what we're going to do. It's a little overcast today, which is good because it keeps the air a little cooler, but just to the west of us, we've got the fire going in Livermore, so it's a little smoky in the air. It's kind of nasty. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. And then also I'm going to drill that hole on the battery connect so that I can have that battery tie down work. And then hopefully, if those two things don't take very long, I'm going to get to adjusting the rear brakes. And I'm pretty much, other than finishing the interior, I think all the major mechanical things will be done at that point. It seems the more I run the motor, the less it leaks, so maybe that seal is not so messed up. We'll have to see. But now that the belt is on the pulleys correctly, it's not squeaking, so we're good there. So I might not even bother with the leak and let somebody else deal with it. So yeah, that's where we're at. So I will have to pull the battery out of here just enough to get this hole drilled, and then, like I said, I need to find my wire loom. I think it's in this box that I put back here. This was all the parts from the house. I was trying to relocate stuff to where it needed to be, so I don't know if the loom is in here, if it's in the house. I got all my plugs and connectors. I don't know. I don't see it. Alright, well, I'll find the loom, because I got a brand new package of loom someplace. But all of this stuff I took off yesterday is all brittle, and as soon as you touch it, it breaks in half. So that's all garbage. But yeah. Alright. So we'll get on it here shortly. I need to find something to eat. Alright, so we have our harness. We got a new package of case covering that I had. It was in the house. I don't know why it wasn't in the box, but whatever. So I'm going to recover all of these back up to where it connects back into the factory stuff. And then I'm going to go ahead and route this down to the transmission or transfer case. Once I do that, I'll figure out how much of these clips, the factory clips, that it'll go back into. And then I'm going to jack this axle up so that I get the passenger side higher than the driver's side, and hopefully we won't have much fluid loss. This way I don't have to drain and refill the axles. What you looking at, Mal? Oh, orange kitty's here. Okay. So, recased it, threw some zip ties on, taped up the two joints where it separates, reconnected the bottom piece to the other thing. The other cats are going to have a conversation. So, this line was my vacuum line that was on my intake. That's the wind because it's breezy today. So, and then this other line is the one that goes down to the CAD. So we've got the vacuum and the plug. What we're going to do, cut this plug off since I don't have another one, and I have a package of these plugs, and so I'll make a new harness that will go to the dash from this plug to the dash, and we'll find a hole over there somewhere that we can sneak everything through, hopefully something nice and clean. And that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to route this down to the transmission transfer case, and then get it plugged in, and then I'll bring it down to this side, and then we will see about getting the CADs off. Alright, so I've got that drape down there. It looks like they should be about the same length overall. So hopefully that is that. If not, we might have to change the mounting locations where the clips were on the fender to make that work, but it shouldn't be too far off. Alright, so there's the harness that I just dropped down. I need to get it back to the plug. Let's see. Let's turn some light on. I need to get it back to the plug, which is right there. So I'm going to run this over the transmission. Now before, it ran behind the shifter and everything up this way. I'm not sure. I'll have to see where I have the best angle at. And then the other thing is I'm going to have to make sure that it doesn't touch the exhaust, because that's what happened, and that's why we have this issue. Okay, I got it routed somewhere. There it is. Matter of fact, I almost hit right on top of the plug. Perfect. So yeah, it looks like the hoses are just about the same length. Now the trick is getting that funky XY thing to line up so the plug goes on. That's going to be the hardest part to do just by feel. I think I'm going to try to do it from the front side of the transfer case. I might have a little bit more room. Right now I'm at the back side of the transfer case, so we'll see what happens. Be nice if I had a separate set of hands, then I could direct myself, but that's not going to happen. Alright, from the front side, I can see the plug pretty good. So, can I reach up there with my good hand? Let's see, can I see where there's the little thing. No frickin' way. Well, that was kind of amazing. It went right on. One shot. I thought I was going to have to fight it. And by rerouting the line, I got it above where all of that was touching. That's good. So I think I can plug back into that clip right there, and I should be high enough away, and then I can zip tie this other line, which is not sure what that might be the neutral switch, which doesn't work because the Jeep starts in gear. But I do want to wire it up so that it's not touching, and then I can wire when I get some, go get some more vacuum line. I can run that vacuum tube up along that and zip tie it all together, and then bring it up somewhere near the battery. That way water doesn't get in there. All right, so now I gotta slip back around on the other side of the Jeep and start clipping things in. So on this 90, the catalytic converter has all these extra tubes that come off that do something, recycles some of the air. I really don't like this exhaust clamp hanging onto this. I'm not sure why it's there. Maybe it was rattling and they put it on there to stop the rattle, but we're gonna find something better than that. That either a hose clamp, because it's not structural, but maybe we can put something on there that's not so likely to dig into the ground and yank everything off, because that would suck. Because if that got hung on a rock or something, you could probably do some damage to your exhaust. Alright, that took a little bit of wiggling, but it's actually pretty much rubbing on the bottom of the pan, way up off the exhaust. As you can see, it's back in the clip right there. So it's almost about where the two pieces Y out, to one to the front and then one that goes up to the vacuum source. So that worked pretty good, and it looks like we still have a lot of length left to play with. Whew. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hook up the upper ones and drop that down to here, and then like I said, we'll swap this one out for the other one, and we should be good. They should be, I'm pretty sure they're identical, because all the gaskets and stuff look the same. Yeah, really the big difference on this one compared to mine is I have a sensor here that tells you that it's in four-wheel drive, and this is just 3 vacuum lines here on the end cup. There's the 2 here, and then there's one that comes in from the tire side, and no electrical, where we're going to have an electrical plug here on the end for our new four-wheel drive light switch that we're putting in. So I'm just going to make sure that that's secured so it doesn't pop open, and then we'll go ahead and get it to the top, and then when I run that vent tube, I will go ahead and zip tie this other line to that one. Sorry, you're getting pipes in the way, but I'll zip tie this to that one so it stays up and out of the way. Okay, so I have this one here, and there's a clip right there, and I have this other clip right here. So, and this is our electrical connection that will be running to our new switch, our new light. I might go ahead and just zip these two together, because this is, unless I can, oh, this was, yeah, I remember this was connected to something on my battery tray in the other Jeep. Probably don't have anything like that, but I could drill a small hole right here and secure it that way. We could do that. We have a drill. We're gonna have to get the drill out anyway. So, all right, so I'm gonna finish hooking up this line, and then we'll drop this down to the axle, and we should have a ton of slack so the axle can articulate without tearing it up. Okay, I hooked that clip back in, and then I made a little loop and I clipped that in, and now we've got plenty of slack down here for that axle to articulate. And here's our vacuum source, and it pretty much runs right to where we need to go. So the only issue here is we've got this battery cable that is sort of in the way, so I'm going to figure that out. Maybe I'll bring it out this way and clip it down to the fender or something so it's not all tangled up. And then what do we got here? Vacuum for the distributor and some sort of, oh, that's that vacuum for the smog stuff. All right, so yeah, that works out pretty good. Yeah, we'll just have to make sure that we get this zip tied in a nice place out of the way, and that'll be good. All right, so that actually worked out really well. Okay, so I'm gonna grab the jack, get this side jacked up, and we'll see how high I have to get it to get the oil not to leak all over the ground. I do have some of my oil pans right there. I'll make sure I catch anything that drops. But yeah, that was like putting the casing on and running the wire, maybe 15 minutes, so not too bad. I'm sure splicing it and trying to figure out everything else would have been a lot more complicated, but sometimes it's good to keep old parts laying around. Okay, gotta find my jack. Oh, I'm standing on it. And I'll get a jack stand so I can put it up underneath there once I get it high enough. Alright, so went all the way as high as I could with this jack. I got a jack stand under there. My jack's starting to leak, so it's time to replace it. Hopefully that's enough angle to get that out of there. I'm going to get the air ratchet and a drip pan and see if this comes out. Alright, so only 4 bolts hold that thing in. I'm going to hope that they're standard because that's what I brought with me and I didn't bring any metrics over here. Again, these 50-50 Jeeps, 50% of the times it's standard, 50% of the time it's metric. It's always a guess, so we'll hope we can get those out easy peasy. I got my air ratchet because it's a lot easier when I'm still this. All right, let's get on that. Okay, so my jack stand's not in the best place. I got all 4 bolts out for the 90. They were 7/16. Now I should be able to maybe, yep. Oh shit, figures. Of course we missed, not a whole lot, so hopefully we won't have a whole lot of fluid, but we are getting a little puddle going. All right, I need, oh, it didn't drain much, so that's good. All right, back in a minute. I ran and grabbed some kitty litter I use for this kind of stuff. The kitty that we have here is a stray. We do not take care of it, so it just kind of lives here. But the kitty litter comes in handy for all sorts of messes, and it's cheap. So I got that. Looks like the leak is pretty much, it was just a little bit, maybe less than an ounce or two. I mean, it literally wasn't very much. So I am going to hunt down some paper towels so I can clean that up, and then I will use Permatex to put the gasket back in place. Take a look at this real quick. Yeah, I caught a lot of the fluid that dropped, but no, not much. It looks like, yeah, it doesn't look in too bad shape. But yeah, this one is 3 vacuums. 2 vacuums there, 1 on the end. And basically, I guess that's locked position. Must be. I don't know. I'll have to look. But what I'm gonna do, there's 2 different ways to do this, a permanent. Well, actually, there's a bunch of different ways. I've seen people drill a hole in here and put a bolt so that it locks the arm in position. I've seen people put a threaded bolt in place of the vacuum bolt and put a nut on both sides and then put it where you want it and lock it down. I've seen people take this off, weld a nut on there and then adjust it. What I'm planning on doing is putting a piece of tubing over that collar, that sleeve that's in there, and then just locking this in the position where it stays, and that's it. Then I won't have to mess with it. I can put it back. It'll look factory except for that little sleeve, and the sleeve, I think, to me, is a better way to do it instead of the bolt, because there's very little side loading on this once it's engaged. So even the bolt, they say it could crack this, and then you have that. But my problem with the bolt is, what if the bolt backs out or the nut gets free and then it slips into your axle and then it gets into your gears? I'm not a big fan of that. You could use Loctite and hope that none of that comes apart, but by putting a sleeve in here, the sleeve will be round and it won't go anywhere. That's why I'm not too worried about this. This one doesn't have all the extra ports and stuff that mine does, so that should make this process a little easier. So we're going to set this one aside. Like I said, we're going to clean this up, let it dry while I'm over there doing the same thing on that one. Yeah, it doesn't smell too bad, and it looked like from the oil that was coming out, it looked fairly clean, golden. So maybe this isn't that bad of oil. So like I said, it wasn't much coming out of it. Oils and gases, when they hit the ground, it looks a lot more than it really is because of how they spread out. But yeah, we were talking probably less than an ounce, maybe if an ounce. All right, so I sprayed a little brake clean. I've got a towel up there, kind of absorbing some of the extra. It's not very much fluid right there, but it just keeps slowly sleeping. So I'm just gonna set that there for now. Yeah, and that is locked position. Let's see, can we get some light in there? Okay, so that's locked. You can tell locked from unlocked if you grab hold of that with your finger. Oops. That would be unlocked. Yeah. Alright, so let's go get the other one so we can swap them over. Alright, so every 5 seconds I get a text from my family who do not live in California asking me about the fire. I'm like, I don't care about the fire. I'm busy. So I got this wheel up off the ground. I have the jack stand underneath it. I've got the jack just sort of sitting there because I went to the bottle jack. So I'm hoping those 4 bolts are the same size, and if it is, we'll pop that off, and I hope we don't get as much fluid. But I did make it so that the oil pan was under it instead of letting it go on the ground on this side, so let's hope. Alright, so they were the same size, and that is all that. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I think we got a little bit more fluid on this one. Not much. Alright, so I'm going to let that drip for a second, and then I will get my blower out and blow it all off before I clean it up to put it on the new one, or on the other Jeep. Okay, so I compared the two, and other than the outsides, they're the same. So I put the shift lever on this one the same as that one, so it's in the engaged slot. I have sprayed down the outside of that with some brake clean, and I sprayed down the outside of the body with air. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of the RTV on there, let it tack up a little bit, and then we will go ahead and put it on. Alright, so we got our RTV on there. We're letting that tack. I'm going to wipe that gasket down one more time with some brake clean, and then it should be ready to go on. Alright, so just like that, it's back in. Just make sure when you take one of these CAD systems apart that you put the horseshoe back around that collar like it's supposed to, or if you get it on one side or the other, you're going to have it locked in or out and not have anything. You can see the Permatex squeezed out. I started at the bottom to get that set, and then I did the tops, because I changed this. You got to make sure that you put your clip back in. Some will have that, some won't. And then we just have our harness here. We should be able to plug everything in, and it should be good to go. And then I can move on to the wiring part when I get the switch in, or the light in. Okay, and I believe that's the direction that that hose went. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll figure it out later. Okay, I was a little wrong. I guess the oil leak isn't getting better. It's just traveling down the oil pan back to here. So we'll have to address that at some point, but right now we're just worried about getting it running and driving so it's sellable. And we're going to leave it up in the air for a few hours for that Permatex to go ahead and set up, and then once we set it back on the ground, we can adjust the brakes. Alright, so what I don't want to do is start a video on this for that. So what I'm going to do is just clean that up enough and put it back in. If it leaks a little, it leaks a little, but at least I can have it back in the other Jeep. I'll finish this one and then I'll get back on that one. And this way I'm not having videos and parts strewn all over the place. But that's pretty much what that was. So straightforward. We're gonna like I said, we're gonna let this sit for, you know, a little bit before we set the thing back down on the ground. Yeah, eventually I either want to get a 10 bolt or a Dana 44 for the front, because I want to have manual locking hubs again. I don't like all this crap. I think it was a big waste, but you know, when they started making Jeeps less about off-roading and more about mall crawling, they simplified things, because hubs get expensive and lots of little moving parts. These are simple to put together. It's a couple of U-joints, everything's splined in, bada bing bada boom. But I've got a 4-cylinder. I would rather have gear ratio and a bit better axle than what we got here. So like I said, I'm going to go back to locking hubs at some point, depending on how long I keep this Jeep. I may then do the Ford 8.8 rear end swap. That's something I might do, or if I can find a matching set of 44s, I'll just do those, and probably some like 588 gears in this thing. But enough talking about this. I'm just going to slap this back together real quick, and then we'll get back on the 90. Alright, so it's been a little while. I'm going to go ahead and lower this down, and we're going to jack up the back so I can adjust the brakes and the parking brake, and then we'll get our drill and bits out and we will take care of that. And that should be that until the little light thing comes in a couple of days. So I think we're be able to finish up the interior, cleaning out the floor pan, and then hosing down everything and getting it all spruced up. So that's that. Alright, so I need the other jack stand, so I guess I need to get it out from under this Jeep so we can use it on this one. Okay, so back end is back up in the air, sitting on jack stands. Front end's got wheel chocks under it so it won't roll on me. So we're going to go ahead and adjust these rear brakes. And then once we adjust the brakes, we'll adjust the parking brake so that everything should work. I'm definitely going to want to bug bomb the shit out of this. There is a Black Widow living in here somewhere. The whole back end, even after I washed it just in the last couple of days, has got nest, or web, not nest, but webbing all over. I just swept it all out again. So let's get on this. Basically, it's pretty simple. This is a brake tool. This is actually a brake tool. You just want to reach in there and spin the little star until you feel drag on the rear drum and stop. No more than drag. If you have more than drag, it's too tight, you're going to end up burning the brake. So right now this wheel spins pretty nicely. Doesn't free spin, so we'll go ahead and just make a couple of light adjustments, and then we'll do the other side, and then we'll do the parking brake. I don't know if this picks up, but you can hear it. I try to do a couple at a time, but here it goes. Hear that little click. So what I do with one hand, I'm turning that star, and the other hand I am turning the wheel. I'm not just turning the star and hoping. So you can hear it audibly click. That's what's nice about this tool. It's designed specifically for the right angle, so if you can use a flathead screwdriver, it works just fine. I use them for years. But yeah, you'll definitely want to turn the wheel as you're doing it. You just don't want to start clicking away, because that's how you get them too tight. Alright, so I don't know if you can hear the drag or not with the gates squeaking, but I can feel it. Alright, so that one's done. We're going to get the other one. It's actually a fairly easy process. Usually takes just a few minutes at most. Depending on your axle, if you have like a posi lock or something like that, you're going to get resistance. You're going to have to know what it feels like when that brake drum is connecting. Because right now we're turning one wheel in one direction, the other wheel in the other direction. But you can definitely feel where you're carrying the all the spider gears and everything, and the difference between just turning the wheel. You'll feel it. It's not that hard. Alright, so I need to do a few turns on this side. Okay, so that took a few turns, and now it's definitely grabbing. You can feel it. Alright, so let's go tighten up that parking brake cable and see how that feels. Normally what I like to do is put my parking brake about halfway down. See how it feels. Right now there's still no parking brake, so I'll go ahead and do my adjustment until I have parking brake set, and then we will see if we can spin the wheels when the pedal's completely depressed. Alright, so that's our adjuster. It's half pulled right now, and I can feel that there's tension on the springs, because there's a good spring back right there. You can see it moving. So what I want to do is run this nut up this cable a little bit until we get some drag on the wheels, just like we did with the initial setting of the brakes. We want to kind of adjust this the same way. If you just crank that thing all the way down, you're not going to have any parking brake, because the parking brake itself is not going to move, and the pads will be all the way pulled up against the drum. Alright, so let me adjust this a little bit and see what we got. Alright, so I probably put about 10 turns or so. I'm guessing we're about halfway up the adjuster. There is and you can hold a 1/4 inch. That way you can spin this. If you have a really deep socket, I like these ratchety style wrenches for this, because you can get in there and not have to do one turn at a time. And since I'm laying here next to the wheel, I can kind of wiggle it back and forth and feel if I have any drag. Once I have some drag, I want to stop. Again, my pedal's only halfway down, so I'm going to go ahead and check the pedal and see if I need to make any more adjustments, or if we have full brake. And how we do that, we push it to the floor, and then we come out here and check this wheel, or both wheels, however you want to do it, but both, one or the other. And if it locks up, that's good. Maybe a half a turn or turn more. You just want it so that the vehicle doesn't roll, and you might have to fine-tune that, but this also allows the adjusters to start working once those are all put in the right place. Okay, so I got that adjusted. Put the backing nut on there, whether yours has one or not. So wheel turns. So the wheel turns without the parking brake, goes down, and wheel doesn't turn. That's what we want. Now you might need to make an adjustment to it later. You might not. It all just depends. But that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot to setting the brakes if you do it right. Okay, so we just checked the driver's side. It doesn't spin when the parking brakes are pressed. We will check here. And that one's on there too. Okay, so that is that. And then we'll take the brake off. Turns. Turns. All right. That's it. Okay, so we're going to put this back down on the ground. We're going to hunt down the drill and a bit and go ahead and secure this battery. And that's going to be it for today's video. Maybe not as long as the last two. Yeah, I got carried away the last 2 days. Editing those down to an hour was a pain. I should have made those 2 videos each 30 minutes. I prefer 30 minutes. But so yeah, that's that. And then the next video, we're just gonna go ahead and clean up the interior, get all that sticky stuff off the floor, wipe this thing down, put the seats back. What else can I do to it? I think, oh well, in the meantime, we'll be waiting for that switch to come in too. So that'll be that. So I'll put the passenger seat in, not the driver's one, because I want to get up underneath the dash and run my wires to the fuse block, because I want that fused. So we'll go into the fuse block with an adapter on one of the powered fuses when the ignition's on, and call that good. Okay, so yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, or not, or whatever. It's kind of a weird way to do this, was to change all this stuff, but if you've dealt with those plastic lines before on any kind of motor, once they get burnt, melted, or cracked, or broken, they're impossible to keep vacuuming. So I think the best option was just to use mine off my Jeep, since I had one. So that worked out pretty good. And I've got all sorts of room up here. There's all sorts of wire for that axle to flex, so we're not going to worry about that. The only thing left is to hook into the vacuum, but I'm going to do that once the switch comes in, because I'm going to apply vacuum to this hose and make sure that the light works properly like it's supposed to, and then I'll worry about hooking all that stuff up. Right now it's teed off, so it's not going to be that big a deal. Alright, so I didn't disconnect the battery, I just kind of slid it up out of the way. I kind of lined up where I wanted that hole based on this little notch here I had. So I just eyeballed it in. It doesn't have to be 100% for this, because this is a rubber one. To figure out what size drill bit I was going to use, I just kept putting this rod into the hole here in the case until I found one that worked. I went with this one because this one's broke along with these other three, so that was the closest I had, so that'll work nice and good. So it'll be in there pretty decent. And yeah, other than that, now we're going to fish this back up from the bottom and hook it up. Alright, so I drilled my hole, got them both back on. These little orange things, I believe, are supposed to go up here, but they work really good to keep the rods from falling when you take the nut off. So I slid them down there, and that's what we're going to call it. We're just going to leave it like that. So bada bing, bada boom, it's done. It's in there. This is rubber, so it's going to stretch a little, but it isn't going to allow it to come out. And then there is a lip right here in the battery tray that hooks onto the edge of the battery, so it is not going anywhere at this point. So no electrical sparks or fires, and that's always a good thing. So yeah, that's done. All right, so thanks for watching. Sorry I forgot about that battery before I was putting my tools away.